Can you feel it, gang? Can you feel it? Bitcoin is over 10,000 US dollars on pretty much every single exchange now. We are looking at a sea of 10,000. Congratulations to all. Hey there, everyone. It's Joe in general, your resident reason and evidence enthusiast. It's your weekly Bitcoin price analysis update. It is Wednesday, the 29th of November, 2017. And yes, we are over the $10,000 mark. Every single crypto YouTuber is doing a similar video. So why wouldn't I either? So it's coinciding with my weekly analysis. So that's kind of good news. I wanted to wait, obviously, until we hit over that 10,000. I was watching it this morning, and we got to like 9999 on the Bitstamp exchange. And because I use the Bitstamp exchange mainly for my analysis, kind of wanted to wait till it hit over 10 on that one. It did hit it over on one of the other ones. There was one or two, it was like GDAX or something. But I was like, no, I've got to wait till Bitstamp. But Bitfinex did it as well right here. That's the Bitfinex exchange. So pretty much every exchange now over 10,000. So the question is, where do we go from here? So let's talk about this chart right here. Now, my subscribers are very well aware of this chart. It's the old one, taking the old high, sorry, from 1163, the old low of 152 and 40 cents right there. And it's a linear Fibonacci extension tool. So there's a Fibonacci retracement levels and extension levels as well. You guys have seen this a lot, but for new subscribers to the channel or for people fresh to my videos, quickly talk about this. In this bull run, in the last 1, 2, 3 times so far, you've had a pattern of coming up to a Fibonacci or key Fibonacci extension level, right? Piercing above it, then having a retracement back down to a previous Fibonacci point, and then the pattern repeats again. So come up, break the old high, come up, here's a Fibonacci level, have a pierce above it, then back down. Now that coincides with the previous high right there. And then we did it right here as well, coming up to that $7,500 mark roughly, which was a pierce above this Fibonacci level, have a retracement back down. Didn't retrace back down as far as the old high now then, so then we'll talk about that in a second. And now, though, we've broke through that high and we've just broken through 10,000 as well. Could we now be coming up, is the target before another major retracement, is the target around about this level right here, kind of hovering around this, probably a pierce above. And in previous videos, I was talking about the level of, well, the level right there where it hits it is about 11,400 US dollars on the Bitstamp exchange, of course, but likely a pierce above. So I was saying around about your 11,400 to 12,500 roughly. Could we see a very quick rise to a little bit higher? Yeah, we certainly could. 13,000, possibly 13,800. That's that cliff high Webbot prediction, predicting 13,800 by the end of February next year, but that could come sooner rather than later, but more likely than not, in my opinion. Of course, this is not financial advice, around about this general vicinity before we see a retracement. Now, the question is from here, what kind of retracement are we talking about? So to people watching my videos for the first time, and particularly to people who are buying Bitcoin for the first time or thinking of buying for the first time now, if you haven't gotten into Bitcoin yet, because there's going to be a lot of news. I'm sure there is. I haven't checked all the mainstream media news just yet because I generally don't watch mainstream media news, but I'm positive there'll be a lot of media about breaking the massive psychological 10,000 US dollar barrier. So you may see people getting into the market for the first time. So if you are one of those people, if you're considering being one of those people, let's talk about that for a second. So if you have not gotten in yet, obviously I can't tell you what to do, but I would suggest that this high right here, what you'll see is you'll notice a pattern of coming up to breaking, let's see, let me go back here. Right here, for example, coming up to a high and then revisiting an old high. Let me get rid of that. And we do it again. We tend to come up to a high and revisit an old high, right? We did it there, we did it there, we did it here. We sort of did it there. We didn't do it here, but I reckon that's because of that small little rise there. So we didn't do it right here. We didn't come back to visit this old high here. But we certainly, after breaking up here, we came back to visit the old high. We almost came back to visit the old high here. You can see here, this is on the weekly time frame, by the way. Almost came back, but not quite. But there is definitely a pattern of coming back to visit an old high. Now, in terms of this little run up from here to here, right here, we almost came back to, was it 5,100, but it wasn't a significant visit of this old high of 5,000. There is a potential that we could have quite a large blow off top coming off here and retracing all the way back down to the previous high of around about your $5,000 level. Am I saying that is definitely going to happen? No, of course not. But that is, in my opinion, somewhere where I would not be surprised if it did. I would definitely not be surprised, and I am definitely expecting a retest of at least right here in $8,000 right there. Definitely expecting that. Let me just put this onto maybe the daily time frame. That might help. Just give me a second, dudes. There we go. What are we? That's the 5,000, right? So definitely, because we came up to here, I'm saying definitely a lot, came up to that sort of $8,000 level and had that retracement back down to what, 55. I would absolutely expect after posting a high, wherever that's going to be, whether it's around here, you would absolutely expect, in my opinion, a test of at least 8,000. Where are we? Round about there would be my my opinion. Around about between, say, 7,900 to 8,300 roughly, but around about that kind of area, absolutely, definitely, in my opinion. So the question is, now that the price is around about over your $10,000 mark, if you are buying for the first time and you've never bought before, do you buy now? So my non-financial advice is one of two things. Either wait for a correction to at least down to $8,000, or buy, let's say you've got $10,000 to spend, maybe spend half of it now, get in right now, so at least you have some just in case we don't see that large correction and the price keeps going higher. So get a small position in, and then if you see a retracement, don't panic, just buy some more. So maybe that's my non-financial advice to people who have not yet bought into the market at all, into the Bitcoin market. So my non-financial advice to people who have recently bought into Bitcoin, maybe even 8,000, even down here at say 6,000, etc. If you've been buying, even if you just bought into here at 10,000 and you spent all of your investment money already, my little word of advice to you is don't panic. Definitely do not panic when we see a decent retracement in the price. Now, if you are investing for the first time, I'm sure you've done your research and you've listened to a lot of people on YouTube, quite possibly myself, quite possibly many others in the crypto space. And many of them would have said, don't panic if you see large retracements, because this is something that happens very, very often in the Bitcoin market. It is very volatile. So if it does come up, if it does crash, quote unquote crash, it's not really a crash really, but if it does come back to 8,000, even if it comes back down to your 5,000, do not panic. That is still very much in a bull market territory. I wouldn't even be panicking, even if we retrace, let's say if we come up to say 12,000, 12,500. Yeah, no, definitely down to there, I wouldn't be worrying. 5,000 is a pretty healthy retracement in my opinion. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, including, well, in regards to retracements, etc., I've been talking about these Fibonacci levels, etc. Just want to quickly mention these two lines right here. Now, these are the 18 average of highs and lows. Now, my good friend over at Money Charts, his name is Derek over at Money Charts. I don't have his channel up at the moment. I'll just show you right here. I'm sure I could find it. Derek right here. If you go to Derek over at Money Charts, he has, I've mentioned him many times before, you should be subscribed to his channel, over 11,000 subscribers now. He's been doing analysis on precious metals and cryptos, more recently cryptos than the precious metals, but he's been doing it for 10 years or something like that. So I've been subscribed to him since 2010. The reason I mention Derek is because he introduced me first. He was the first one to introduce me to the 18 average of highs and lows. Now, I've been using them just sort of personally, but I've never really mentioned them on the channel before, but I'm going to mention them now. They're a great little tool for analysis also. So what you can see here, more and particularly most recently in the price action, where you'll see after coming off a high, we tend to revisit the 18 average of lows. Sometimes appears below, but we definitely usually tend to revisit the 18 average of lows at some point. You can see it all the way through the chart. Come up to a high, revisit, there's a pierce below there. Sometimes we come down to the 18 average of highs, but eventually we visit the 18 average of lows. Right here, a pierce below, a very quick pierce below, and particularly here you'll notice as we, let me just get rid of, let's make that a little bit better. Come up to a high, visit the 18 average of lows, come up to a high, visit the 18 average of lows, up to a high, 18 average of lows, etc. Now, in this most recent retracement where we came up to that $8,000 level, we did have a retracement, but it wasn't down to the 18 average of lows. So I would expect at some point to revisit that 18 average of lows. When it does it is the big question, but there's, it's a possibility that we come up to around about this area, maybe have a pierce above, as I said, between your 11,400 to 12,500, before we have a large retracement back down to at least the 18 average of lows. So it depends where it hits up here. So as the price goes higher, this 18 average of lows rises up as well. So it really does depend. Plus, as I've said before, there have been periods where we have a significant retracement much below the 18 average of lows as well. But I would use that as a guide, as a definite place where you would see a retracement come back to at least. It definitely has to do it at some point. So what you could potentially see, again, not financial advice, but coming up to this kind of area here, having a decent retracement, at least back down to the 18 average of highs and possibly a pierce below, possibly back to that $5,000 mark, but it's kind of around that kind of area. It would not surprise me, and I would not panic if it does that. Now, am I saying 100% that we're going to have a giant retracement back down to that area? No, not 100%, of course not. But on balance of probability, it would seem more likely than not, more than a 50% chance, because we're starting to get quite overextended around about this point. The other thing I just really wanted to quickly show you, right here, this is the bitcoinwisdom.com website, of course. My subscribers are very well aware of this. And what I've done is I've added the new trend channel right here. I've talked about the trend channels many, many times before. It's the original trend channel is this one right here, and then I've manually drawn in these ones right here, and it's to match the distance between here and here as closely as possible. It's not an exact science, I'm manually doing it, but I've gotten it pretty darn good. The spacing in between is pretty even. So this was the old, what I'd now call the old top end of the trend channel. That's definitely old bottom end, and I think now this is the bottom end of the trend channel. Let me just get rid of that on the max setting. This is now going to become the bottom end of this trend channel, and that's the top end. Now, there has been a pattern of coming up to the top end of a trend channel and revisiting the bottom end. We came close to the top end of this trend channel before we revisited the bottom right here. We definitely tend to visit the bottom of the trend channels right here. The other possibility, and I'm giving this a much less likely possibility, but it's let's just explore it anyway. This is on the daily time frame. Could we see a run up to the top end of this trend channel, wherever that hits, before we see that big retracement? That's a possibility. I'm probably giving that maybe a 10% chance at this stage. But as I said before, definitely around this kind of area. Well, let me go back. Where would that hit? If we did it in the next, let's say we did it in the next 24 hours, that's not going to happen. But if we did in the next 24 hours, for example, that would be hitting it at about $14,300. Or if it's in the next few days, for example, that's anywhere up to, let's say, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In the next week, 14,600. I don't think we're going to get that high. That's my opinion, but just wanted to show you that trend channel anyway. As I said, just to quickly recap, top end of this this exponential, linear Fibonacci calculation. I'm so excited that we've hit 10,000 Bitcoin that I'm getting tongue-tied. And my computer, I don't know if you can hear that, but my fan is going crazy, so I might have to stop this video very soon. That's why I'm talking so quickly. My computer's going to explode. Right here, top end, around your 11,400, 12,500-ish kind of area. And I think you'll definitely see a retracement at some point, at least back to the $8,000 mark. So if you're looking to get in for the first time, possibly buy a little bit now, then buy a bit more on the way down, sort of dollar cost average your price. And if you have bought in and you've already bought in around here and you've spent all your dough, don't stress if it comes back down to here. We're going to see higher prices, much higher prices, in my opinion, in the future. Of course, not financial advice. And do not be surprised if we do come back and quickly test this old high of 5,000. That's a possibility at this stage. I would say more than a 50% chance. Let's give it a 51% chance at this stage of revisiting 5,000, because we are looking pretty extended. And I would give a 90% chance of revisiting $8,000 at some point. So I hope this was coherent enough for you guys to follow along with. Again, I just want to make a quick video. Oh, it's not that quick now, but particularly because we've hit that that $10,000 US mark. Of course, if you want to stay updated with the Bitcoin price, hit the big red subscribe button right here. I've had a very good week in terms of subscribers, over 600 new subscribers since doing these couple of videos on Ethereum and my weekly Bitcoin price analysis right there. All right, on to bigger and better things eventually, but just do take into account that potential, quite very potential retracement back down to those levels that I mentioned. All right, gang, that's it. I'm going to leave it at that. Stay safe, stay informed. Speak soon.